snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So today I'm going to be doing a book review, and the book that I'm going to be reviewing is The Last Four Things, which is by Paul Hoffman. This is book number 2 in the Left Hand of God trilogy, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this because I read the first one maybe 3 years ago, and I never did a review on this channel because obviously it was before I had started this channel, but I'm going to kind of review them without spoiling the first or this one, so don't worry about that. So this is the story of a young boy called Thomas Cale. Thomas Cale has been raised in a Redeemer world, in the sanctuary where the Redeemers all live. The Redeemers are essentially fighting monks. That's what they're described as on Goodreads, and that's what they're described as in the book. However, they have a very, very twisted kind of version of religion, and their way of doing things is the hard way or no way. So yeah, it's quite a dark series, and a lot of really gruesome, horrible stuff is described, and so if you're squeamish or anything like that, I definitely wouldn't pick this up. So our main character, Thomas Cale, has been raised in the sanctuary, and he has lived a very, very harsh life. He has been beaten and he has been barely fed, and he is just a very sad, lonely little boy, but he's also very tough, very resilient, and he is a very, very clever and very good student. Even though he has been horribly downtrodden all of his life, he's actually very clever and very brilliant. He is the accolade of Bosco. Bosco is a very high up Redeemer who features quite heavily in this book, and he features quite heavily in the first book as well, and he'll probably feature in the last one. So him and Cale are probably the most key characters. So to recap book number 1, because I never reviewed it, book number 1, The Left Hand of God, is basically all about Cale, and he comes across something that he really should never have seen, and he encounters this thing and he knows that it means the end of him if he is caught, because he cannot be caught doing what he's done as a result of this, and it causes him to have to run away from the sanctuary, and he gets into all sorts of very tricky situations, especially trying to escape, and then what happens after he escapes is even more dramatic, and so much stuff happens in the first one that it's unbelievable, and it leads to book number 2. So this book follows after the rather terrible chain of events which happens in book 1, and it follows Thomas Cale and Vague Henry and Kleist and Bosco as the 4 main characters. Thomas Cale, Vague Henry and Kleist were all friends in book number 1. In book number 2, not so much. Kleist kind of goes his own way in this book, and that's a really nice thing to see. In book number 1, Kleist is kind of forced into the situation. They're kind of thrown together and they have to be accomplices even if they're not really friends with each other. But Vague Henry is much more of a friend towards Cale, and they have a really good, loyal relationship to one another. So this mainly focuses on Cale as the leader of a very huge army. So there is a lot of tactical strategy involved and planning big manoeuvres in army terms, and the whole story is kind of interconnected via the faith of the Redeemers. The character that Cale has become over the course of these 2 books is something very dark and very twisted and very evil, and we don't really know where his intentions lie. We can't really tell if he is a good character or a bad one. Of course, he's been raised in a very harsh environment, so realistically we have no idea whether that has affected him to the point where he can't return to being good and friendly and kind, or whether he's just dark inside, and what's going on with him is never really said. Inner turmoils with like what he's doing are never really discussed, but the inner turmoil with the religion is a massive part of the book. So in this book he's gained recognition a lot from book 1. In book 1 he's an unknown accolade. In book number 2 he's this big monster-like creature, or that's what he's rumoured to be, and everyone fears him and no one really knows what to do about him. He's told by Bosco that he has to take over the Redeemer army and he has to defeat all of the enemies that the Redeemers have, which is a lot, and that he has to do it so that the Redeemers can take over the world and end the world. They want to bring about mass destruction and end the world. They want to bring about the last 4 things, which are death, judgment, heaven and hell. So Vague Henry and Kleist, as I said, they are Thomas Cale's friends, and they are not featured quite as much in this book as they are in book number 1. Kleist is a rather hard character. He likes to think of himself as independent. He doesn't like to be in debt to anyone for any reason. he's very introverted and very hard and very tough. He and Cale are kind of friends by default rather than friends because they like each other in book number 1. So when they separate in this book, it's quite interesting to see how he acts on his own. Kleist strays away from the other characters in this book very, very early in the storyline, and he actually comes across something entirely different to all of the other characters in this book. He's kind of on a subplot line, which is all to do with the Clefts. The Clefts are this tribe of people who are really interesting. They're very, very different to any tribe I've ever seen of any people anywhere. They don't like fighting. Instead of fighting, they loot people and then they run away. They don't even try to fight, and it's just such a fun concept, and they're such funny, interesting people to learn about. So seeing them through Kleist's eyes was just phenomenally funny, and I enjoyed that so much. I really liked those sections of the book, and I thought that they were really fun. I also really loved the way that they kind of brought Kleist out of his shell and showed us a little bit more of a sensitive side, which we don't really get to see in book number 1 so much. Next we have Vague Henry, who is called Vague Henry due to his vague answers. He's never very to the point with what he says, but he's really fun. He's a very loyal character. He's a good friend to Thomas, even when Thomas doesn't want him to be, and they make a good team together. He is a rather flawed character still because he grew up in the same conditions as the other two, but he has a lot more kindness in his heart than the other two do, and they are a lot colder and meaner than he is. He sees the beauty in things, and although he has just as much loathing and hatred for the Redeemers as the other two because of what was done to them when they were little, he still sees the good in things, and he still has morality left in him, whereas the other two, we're not always so sure whether they lie on things. Bosco himself is a very dark character. He's a high redeemer, so he's a very important character, but the whole book is him scheming his way to the top. He wants to be the Pope, and he wants to get there by any means possible. He's been plotting for years and years and years how to use Thomas, his accolade, as a pawn to move him into the position, and how he can make sure that he gets the prime spot as Pope when the last Pope dies. In book number 1, he comes across as this absolutely terrifying, horrible, scary person, and we really don't want to know him or anything because he's just so terrifying. But in this book, he actually explains a lot more about why he was doing everything and what the Redeemers are all about, why they believe what they do, and so on. So he really gives us more of an insight into the religion, and he really helps you to understand exactly why some of the things that are happening are, because we really don't know very much about what's going on in the grand scheme of things until he tells us. So that was a very helpful kind of tactic of letting us know information, but it was also a good way of making him seem a little bit more human, because in book number 1 he seems like this terrible, evil person who just cannot even be real because he's that horrible. But this one, he kind of tones it down a little bit, but not much, and he just becomes a little bit more relatable and believable. So there are 3 main races and types of people who are discussed within this book. The first is obviously the Redeemers, who have their own faith. They want everyone in the world to believe as they do, and they want to bring about the annihilation of humankind on the earth because they think that that is what their God wants them to do. They want to end the world, and they want to bring about the last 4 things, whatever means possible, and they want everyone to end with them. They worship God, but they have a very different belief system to Christianity. They don't believe in forgiving or anything like that. They believe in brutal and horrible torture, terror, and punishment. Anything that you do wrong has a severe punishment attached to it, and then anything, even the slightest crime or even a made-up crime, can cause you to be executed. Executions and evil things like that are very common, and they happen a lot. So, as I say, if you don't like blood and guts and gore and all that grim stuff, then this is not a story for you. Then we have the Materazzi, who are a population of people who are very regimented, and they believe in fighting and honour as their key aspects. They think that morals and honour are the way to get to heaven, and they believe that honour is the thing that binds them to do anything and everything. And they are just a very noble class of people. And of course, they have very different beliefs to the Redeemers, so they are frequently fighting, and in book 1 it's mostly focused on the battle between the Materazzi and the Redeemers. But in book number 2 it focuses a lot more on the battle between the Redeemers and the Laconics. The Laconics are another race of people who are known to do some very, very horrible, evil things to the kids that they have within their race. It's known that the adults will rape children and use them for sexual intercourse. very dark, as I say, so again, don't read this if you don't like that sort of stuff. They're considered by the Redeemers especially to be absolutely disgusting. They are an abomination on the earth and they need to be removed, so that is the job that Kale is put up to. And I'm not sure what I think of them because they seem pretty nasty, but we don't know that much about them. So the general plotline follows Kale as he tries to defeat these other races of people and what happens in the battles that he designs and the way that he thinks about these new engineered techniques that he can use to defeat the other armies. Thomas is central to the entire working for the Redeemers. He's made out to be this kind of magical creature that God has sent to the earth to help them do their bidding, and he's very much the focal point of everything. It's a much more character-driven storyline than it is a plotline, because not that much actually happens across this book, and although it's like 500 pages, just under, it's very much more focused on characters and characterization, and also on the inner workings of the Redeemers and the religion and the political intrigue and mystery that is surrounding their faith. It's very much about Kale questioning the religion and all the people in the book questioning the religion and whether it is right to do this or wrong to do this, and moral decisions. So it's much more about that than it is a big adventure. Don't go into this series thinking, oh my goodness, it's going to be a really fun big adventure. It's not, because although book number 1 has quite a lot that happens, and so does this, it's not moving the story along so much on an adventure. It's more developing your understanding of the Redeemers and what they do and why they do it, and kind of moving us along in that fashion. So, as I say, I did really enjoy this book. I gave it a 3.5 star rating. I thought that it was really good. I didn't enjoy it quite as much as I did book number 1, just because, as I say, a little bit more happens in that one in terms of storyline, but I thought that it was a really good writing style, very interesting, the ideas that it raises, and if you are interested in religion and that sort of thing, this is definitely the sort of series that you should read, because it's really questioning religion and the right of it and the wrong of it, and what sort of things can happen when religion is taken too far. So it's a very cool series, and it all focuses on this little boy who's only 15 and has the fate of the world on his shoulders. So it's very cool, and I do like this series, but it's definitely not for everyone. So please do let me know if you have read this series, because I am interested to see if other people have, because I don't really know anyone who has, and I haven't really heard it talked about on BookTube, so I'm interested to know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all really soon in my next video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat about books.